Barcelona went, in a matter of weeks, from dreaming of the treble to being knocked out of the Champions League. But be careful, this isn't a story of failure, it's a story of pride. Of rebuilding. Of a team that has returned to walking among giants after years of being dragged through the mud. Yes, Barca lost to Inter, but they lost standing tall, fighting, with their heads held high. Today is not the time to bury this team in criticism. It's time to applaud them, because what Barcelona has achieved this season is no small feat. Winning the Copa del Rey against Madrid, fighting toe-to-toe for, and reaching the Champions League semi-finals in the middle of a brutal financial crisis, without big signings, and with a squad built on homegrown youth. This is a team that wasn't expected to win titles, but ended up bringing back hope to a fan base that dreamed of falling in love with the Blaugrana colours again. Because this Barca is addictive. It stirs emotions that haven't been felt in years. Because now, despite the loss, despite the elimination, we walk away satisfied, knowing that Barca played spectacular football throughout the entire tournament, and will keep doing it. Did we want the treble? Of course, was there hope? All of it. But it was never an obligation. This team gave everything, and that deserves to be celebrated. Still, that doesn't mean we should look the other way, because yes, there were mistakes. Players who can no longer keep up, decisions that cost dearly, and moments that define whether a project moves forward or gets stuck. And today we're going to talk about all of it, because this Barca deserves respect, a standing ovation for what has been a great season so far, but it also deserves growth, and to leave behind all the key issues that are still holding it back from glory. Let's dive in. My friends, this might feel like a tragedy, like a painful deja vu. It takes us back to Mourinho's Inter in 2010. It reminds us of the Roma nightmare, the deafening silence of Anfield. But there's one thing that sets this Barcelona apart from those dark chapters. This Barca fought. This Barca returned to the semi-finals. And most importantly, this Barca made us believe again, because this young, brave, and identity-driven team has once again stood up to everyone. Madrid, Bayern, Atletico, Inter, Dortmund, Benfica. There hasn't been a single rival they didn't rise up to face. And that, in the middle of a financial crisis without star signings, is a feat. Belief in the badge came back. Fear of Barcelona came back. Because this isn't just a team, it's a project. One that mixes present and future. One that breathes La Masia, but also demands results. And that's where the real dilemma begins. Because if Barca wants to reach the top again, it must make tough decisions. There are players who gave everything, but are no longer enough, and that needs to be said clearly. Gundogan warned about it after the PSG match. It's not enough to play well. You have to own your mistakes. You have to have the humility to improve. And Ronald Araujo, as much as we love him for his heart and grit, can't keep failing in the most crucial moments. He did it in the first leg, he repeated it in the second, and he's already been part of too many painful nights this season, but he's not the only one. And we'll get to that. Let's think for a second about what Barcelona was just a few years ago. After Luis Enrique, the club could no longer compete in Europe. We lived through the Ernesto Valverde era, which started strong, but ended dragging along a team without soul, suffering historic collapses. Then came Ronald Koeman and chaos. Messi left, and after that, long balls, Piqué as a striker, a squad with no direction, a lost identity. We were playing without a plan. Winning felt like a fantasy. Competing was the exception. Yes, Xavi brought us La Liga. He gave us some pride, but his second year showed it wasn't enough. The tactical compass was lost. The impact faded. And against big teams, we fell short. That's why it hurts, but it also matters. Today, Barca has lost its 10th Champions League semi-final, but this time it went down fighting. It fell with identity. It fought to the last second. And for this club, that alone is already a new beginning. That's why this loss doesn't feel like the old ones. Because this time, we lost with honour. Because this team, counted out before the Champions League even began, made it all the way to the Final Four. And not because of luck. Not because of an easy draw, but because of football. Let's remember the journey. It started with a 2-1 loss to Monaco in the qualifiers, which made us fear the worst. But Barcelona responded with character. They thrashed young boys 5-0 without mercy. They put 4 past Bayern Munich. Yes, that Bayern, the one that had crushed us in every European meeting since 2020. And we did it with a brilliant Rafinha, scoring a hat-trick to remember. We dominated Red Star and beat Brest as well. Then came the real tests. Against Dortmund in Germany, we won 3-2 in a thriller led by rising stars like Lamine Yamal and Ferran. Later came an epic comeback against Benfica, where Rafinha became the hero with a last-minute screamer to steal all 3 points. We drew with Atalanta, yes, but we qualified second in the group, just behind Liverpool. In the round of 16, we faced Benfica again, and like deja vu, with everything against us, a red card for Cubarsí, the team dead tired, Rafinha gave us glory again, with a second-half wonder goal. In the return leg, an unstoppable Lamine Yamal scored one of the most spectacular goals in Barca history and led the team to a 3-1 win. In the quarter-finals, we destroyed Dortmund in the first leg, and although we lost the return match, the semi-final spot was earned. Then came Inter. The first leg ended in a draw. We fought, we dreamed again, and now the second leg. Time for the match summary and tactical analysis. Barcelona lined up in their usual 4-2-3-1, staying true to the offensive style that has defined their season. Szczęsny started in goal, firmly established as the number one thanks to his solid recent performances. In defence, Pau Cubarsí and Inigo Martinez were the centre-backs, with Gerard Martin on the left and Eric Garcia on the right. A backline that raised some defensive concerns, especially due to inexperience on the flanks. In midfield, Pedri and Frenkie de Jong formed the double pivot, with Dani Olmo playing as the attacking midfielder. Up front, the offensive trio consisted of Rafinha on the left, Lamine Yamal on the right, and Ferran Torres as the striker. It was an ambitious 11, clearly aiming to control possession, attack down the wings, and create overloads through quick combinations. Inter, meanwhile, stuck to their identity, a 5-3-2 base formation, with Sommer in goal, who would go on to be the hero of the match. The back three consisted of Acerbi, Bastoni, and Bissek, with DiMarco and Dumfries operating as wing-backs with crucial roles in transition. In midfield, the trio of Barella, Çalhanoğlu, and Mkhitaryan pulled the strings, while the strike duo of Lautaro Martinez and Thuram, Inzaghi's most trusted pairing, led the line. Barca's initial game plan was aggressive high pressing, almost man-to-man. Ferran tracked Acerbi, Rafinha pressed Bissek, and Lamina marked Bastoni. Pedri and Dani Olmo stayed close to Inter's midfielders, while Frenkie de Jong tracked Çalhanoğlu. But there was a weak point in this setup, one that Inter quickly exploited. Bastoni, the Italian centre-back, with his clean passing and sharp reading of the game, became the first source of danger. Inter didn't try to play short out from the back. Instead, they launched long balls down the flanks, especially to Gerard Martin's side, who struggled in 1-versus-1 duels. The plan was clear: use Thuram to pin the centre-backs and have Dumfries attack the space behind Barca's left-back. It was a move they repeated over and over as a clear offensive pattern. But of course, it wasn't Inter's only weapon. The match reached a frantic pace. With their structured blocks and lightning-quick transitions, Inter weren't just surviving, they were countering with surgical precision. And although Barca tried to maintain their high pressing as a signature trait, they simply couldn't keep it up for 90 minutes. Every time they eased off just a little, Çalhanoğlu noticed. He dropped a few metres, received with his back to goal, and with a simple touch out wide, triggered chaos. DiMarco on the left, Dumfries on the right. It was like a self-destruct button for Barca's system. That's where the chess match began. Because if anyone could fix things from within, it was Frenkie and Pedri, two midfielders with Barca's soul stitched into their boots. And who knew that this match demanded more than talent? It demanded calm, leadership, control. Frenkie played a tactically heavy match. With Hansi Flick trusting him as the lone pivot, he had a dual role to start the build-up from deep and close spaces when Inter regained possession. At times he dropped between Inigo Martinez and Cubarsí, forming a back three to draw out Lautaro and Thuram. From there, he tried to break the lines with a pass forward. That's when Pedri would appear, the kind of player who finds time where there is none. When he received with his back to goal, he didn't panic. He turned, he accelerated, he found Yamal if the fullback was exposed, or Dani Olmo if there was a positional advantage. He even connected with Gerard Martin more than once, helping to stretch the pitch. But the way Barca attacked was also their biggest weakness, because every attempt to break lines felt like flipping a coin. If it wasn't perfect, it became a chance for Inter. Lamine Yamal, just like in the first leg, was the centre of all fears. Every time he got the ball on the right wing, he was swarmed by DiMarco, Bastoni, and even Mkhitaryan. 3 players on him, cutting off his wings before he could fly. Inter knew that one magical play could change everything, and they were willing to sacrifice men just to deny him space. But that pressure on Yamal opened other paths. Pedri and Dani Olmo, with their positional intelligence, saw the spaces left by those multiple covers. They received in those gaps, they turned, they searched for the through pass, but every attempt crashed into an Italian wall because Inter defended with a perfect double line, 5 in the back, 3 in midfield, moving like one single unit. There were no open lanes, no central corridors. Barca was forced to play side to side and take risks to stretch the field, and when those risks failed, the nightmare began. Barca didn't even need to lose the ball near their box. Just a loss in midfield was enough for Inter to activate their deadliest weapon, the transition. 1, 2, 3 quick passes, vertical touches, lightning-fast combinations, and suddenly the whole Inter block was flying toward Szczęsny's goal. That's how the first blow came. Minute 21. Dani Olmo plays a horrible pass and loses the ball. In less than 5 seconds, Thuram is sprinting between the lines. His run is perfectly timed. Inigo can't close the gap. And when Lautaro receives in the box, it's a tap-in, 1-0, a psychological punch, a surgical goal, but Inter didn't stop. They knew Barca were rattled, and just before halftime, it happened again. This time down the right wing, Gerard Martin, under pressure from Dumfries, tries to play out. Another mistake, another interception, and once again, Lautaro on the break. Pau Cubarsí brings him down right on the edge of the box. Clear penalty, no debate. Çalhanoğlu converts, 2-0. The second half began with a tense silence. Barca was down 2-0. It felt over, but in that abyss, something unexpected happened. Hansi Flick's team completely changed its attitude. They didn't just want to come back, they believed they could. Gerard Martin, who had struggled defensively, started pushing forward fearlessly down the left flank, and that one shift caused a tactical earthquake, because while Inter focused all their attention on stopping Lamine Yamal, Pedri and Dani Olmo began to find space inside. Lamine was such a threat that every time he got the ball, Inter dropped back in panic. 3 players around him, and while all eyes were on him, Pedri, calmly from the shadows, started building attacks. He looked to create space for his teammates to cross to the far post, behind the defenders. Then came the moment that sparked hope. Minute 61. Gerard Martin receives on the left. He lifts his head, crossed to the far post, and there was Eric Garcia, unmarked as if no one saw him coming. Goal for Barca, 2-1. The stadium roared. The flame was lit, but it wasn't enough. Barca was in a trance. They attacked with precision, played the offside line perfectly, won every 50-50 ball. Minute 74. Once again Gerard Martin, once again across to the far post. This time Dani Olmo gets on the end of it. Low shot. Goal. 2-2. Explosion. Inter were shaken. For the first time in the entire tie, they had no answers, and Barca, lifted by the soul of its crest, went for more. Minute 87. Pedri sends a magical pass. Only he can see it. Rafinha runs into the space. The keeper saves the first shot, but the rebound goes in. 3-2. This wasn't just a comeback, this was a statement. The final was practically in Barca's hands. They just had to hold on, but football doesn't forgive lapses. First, Inter wins a rebound off a desperate long ball. Gerard Martin tries to block a pass to Thuram, but fails. Here comes a controversial moment. Thuram trips him, but no foul is called. Then comes another defensive mistake. Acerbi, Inter's centre-back, is all the way up front. He gets into position for a cross. Acerbi, who had played the whole game, beats Araujo to the ball. Araujo, who had just come on, and the Italian scores the equaliser in the 89th minute. And the worst was yet to come. In extra time, Minute 99, Ronald Araujo again makes a mistake the elite never forgive. Instead of closing toward the sideline, he cuts inward. Thuram sees it, exploits it, gets to the byline, cut back. Fratesi arrives unmarked, goal 4-3. The Giuseppe Meazza explodes. And although Barca pushed until the very end, they kept running into a wall named Sommer. The Danish keeper made 7 world-class saves. He was without a doubt the man of the match. Because in the end, this was a match Barca deserved to win, and so did Inter. A clash of giants, of extreme emotion, of beauty and heartbreak. When a team gives everything, destiny should reward them. But this time, destiny had other plans. And those plans wore gloves. His name was Jan Sommer. The Swiss goalkeeper was, without a doubt, the reason FC Barcelona won't be in the final in Munich. Even though he conceded 3 goals, he was the hero of the night, the last line of defence. The one who extinguished every flame when Barca was about to set the match on fire. This wasn't just a great performance, it was a legendary one. At the toughest moment of his Inter career, Sommer responded with chilling composure. He stopped impossible shots, came out to claim crosses with an authority that frustrated Yamal, Olmo, Rafinha, everyone. And when the defense broke down, he multiplied himself. Maybe the image that sums it all up was that point-blank save against Eric Garcia, a shot that looked like a certain goal. It had power, direction, perfect timing, but no, Sommer flew, as if time had stopped, as if the goal had a magnet. That save wasn't just a stop, it was a sentence. Barca tried everything: substitutions, adjustments, pressure, possession. Flick searched for answers from the bench. Pedri tried from distance. Lamine kept taking on defenders. Even Lewandowski came on late, looking for his moment. But it didn't matter. Every shot met the same end: the hands of Inter's number one. Summer became the symbol of the wall Barca couldn't break. And while the scoreboard said 4-3, the pain went far deeper. Because this time, Barca was ready. This time, they believed they came back. They moved us. But when the match turned into a mental war, a test of survival, Inter had a gladiator between the posts. It wasn't Barca's failure. It wasn't a bad strategy. It was an epic battle where an unexpected hero emerged. A man who didn't score goals. He stopped them all. Who didn't celebrate with wide arms but with firm hands and steel reflexes. And as Barca collapsed on the pitch, eyes empty and heart shattered, Summer raised his arms, not like a villain, but as the cruel reminder that in football sometimes, being better just isn't enough. But let's be clear, Barca was only better in some aspects of the match. Because if there's one undeniable weakness in this team, it's the defence. There are defeats that hurt, and there are defeats that expose you. The elimination in Milan wasn't just the end of a European campaign, it was a brutal reflection of a truth Barca had been ignoring for weeks. Because the collapse didn't start at the Giuseppe Meazza, it started long before, and each match was another crack in the wall. It all began in Dortmund. After a 4-0 win in the first leg, the team relaxed. They gave up control, and Borussia, with nothing to lose, scored 3 goals that set off every alarm. They blamed overconfidence. They blamed rotations. But the problem wasn't about circumstances, it was structural. Then came the match against Celta at Montjuic, a 4-3 win that felt like a loss. Because yes, Barca scored 4 goals, but they conceded 3 again. The team no longer defended as a unit. The space between the lines became highways. The covering was late. The backline split apart far too easily. Then came the Copa del Rey final, a Clásico, a war. Barca fought with heart, but still conceded 2 second-half goals, both from set pieces. Mbappe's absence covered up the chaos. Tchouameni's header was a warning, but no one listened. Only against Mallorca did they keep a clean sheet, and even that came with suffering, with anxiety. As if every cross into the box was a threat, as if Barca no longer knew how to defend. Then came Inter. In the first leg, Thuram scored in 30 seconds. A painful deja vu. Then Dumfries won 2 headers. Aerial duels once again, a nightmare. It ended 3-3, celebrated like a heroic draw, but there was no more margin for error. And in the return leg, the whole castle came crashing down. 4 goals. 1 from a midfield turnover, 1 from a penalty, 1 from an individual error, 1 from total defensive collapse. All different, all avoidable, but all with the same root cause, a system that could no longer support its players. Then came Araujo. He entered in the second half with a clear mission: hold the line, protect the box, lead from the back. But the opposite happened. The Uruguayan, replacing Íñigo Martínez, didn't add stability. He added mistakes. He failed to mark Acerbi on the equaliser. Then he was completely exposed by Thuram in the play that led to the final 4-3. It was a nightmare. The worst part, it wasn't an accident. It's becoming a pattern. He was at fault for 2 goals against Benfica in that 5-4 win. He lost Guirassí's mark in Dortmund. He got a crucial red card against PSG last season. And now, 2 more costly mistakes in a European semi-final. Araujo is no longer a guarantee. His defensive strength is fading. His ball distribution is limited. And if a good offer comes in, no matter how tempting it sounds, Barca must seriously consider selling him. Because possession-based football, ball-playing defenders, that's not his game. We also need to talk about the refereeing. As Hansi Flick said, the 50-50 decisions consistently went Inter's way. Curiously, it was the same referee who disallowed Julian Alvarez's penalty for a supposed double touch. The same referee who was once seen with a suitcase bearing Madrid's crest in the locker room. And in this match, he didn't call a penalty on Lamine, despite 2 clear contacts, one outside the box and another inside that brought him down. He ignored the foul on Gerard Martin that led directly to the equaliser, and he didn't call Acerbi's handball in the area, which should have been a penalty. After the blow, all that's left is to look ahead. And if Hansi Flick's system made one thing clear, it's this: Barca needs a serious restructure, not a revolution, precision surgery. The team needs centre-backs with authority. Hodgson would be a great signing, but the name gaining the most traction is Jonathan Tah. Stability, experience, leadership. On the flanks, the fullbacks must be upgraded. Without attacking threat from the sides, Flick's model suffocates. In midfield, Pedri needs a world-class partner, a profile like Musiala, someone with talent, tempo, and the ability to break lines. Up top, Lewandowski's situation is no longer sustainable. The Polish striker is reaching the end. The name fans dream of: Julian Alvarez. Movement, instinct, and hunger for titles. The wings also need real competition. Nico Williams could raise the level of everyone. Rafinha has had a brilliant season, crucial in the Copa, Champions, and La Liga. But is it sustainable? This may be his peak. Barca can't keep depending on peaks, it needs consistency, and to get there, some players need to be let go. Araujo seems done. Ansu Fati must take his last chance. Ferran, same case. There's no more time to wait for miracles. The future can't be built on promises, only on certainties. But my friends, even in defeat, there are signs of a bright future. Yes, Barcelona fell. They won't play in the Munich final, but they went down fighting, like the giant they are. This team never gave up. It held on to its identity, its style, its courage. They played a match worthy of the club's history. And if football were fair, we'd be talking about an epic comeback. But there's something more important than one result, the project. This current Barca has solid foundations. The most valuable part isn't the transfers, it's the essence. The golden eras of this club always began at home, with La Masia guiding the first team. And today, the cycle repeats. Pau Cubarsí, Alejandro Baldi, Marc Casado, Marc Bernal, Gavi, Dani Olmo, and of course, Lamine Yamal. The new guard is already here, born and raised in Blaugrana. They know what the crest means, and they wear it with pride. Sound familiar? In 2007, Barca fell in the semi-finals to Manchester United. Messi was still wearing number 19. It felt like disappointment, but it was just the prologue to a golden era that changed football forever. A year later, the sextuple. Today, Lamine Yamal also wears the 19th. And he too has sparked something great, something still blooming. This year, Barca has already made a statement. Copa del Rey champions, humiliating Real Madrid twice, Champions League semi-finalists, still in the race for La Liga. It's a historic season. And if it ends with a double, it'll be unforgettable. But even if no more trophies are added, what's been achieved already marks the rebirth of a club that nearly disappeared. Today, Barca competes. It excites. It dreams. And this is just the beginning, because Barca isn't just a team, it's an idea. It's a generation growing together. It's a future that's Blaugrana once more. We'll return to the semi-finals. We'll return to the final. We'll rule Europe again. This is just the first chapter in a brand new era for FC Barcelona.